We're live. Thanks, BJ. Hi, everybody. This is Elisa McCall from Polar Bears International, joining you again live from Tundra Buggy 1 on the shores of Western Hudson Bay, just east of Churchill, Manitoba. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in to our live chat right now on the Tundra Buggy cam. It's been a pretty spectacular day for those of you who have joined us already. We have just been surrounded by a flurry of polar bears all morning since we woke up. It's been pretty darn cool, and we're really happy that we've been able to share it with you today. So I'm joined by quite a few guests in our buggy today, Buggy 1, which is donated to us from Frontiers North Adventures to do super cool things like drive the polar bear cam and roam around the tundra and then talk to you live and take your questions. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat window wherever you're watching or on Facebook, and we are really excited to get to as many as we can today. I am joined by my colleague BJ Kirchhoffer, as always, so we'll pass the mic off to him in a moment. He's working on something that we're going to be talking about today, so I'll give him a minute here. We also have Jeff York on board. He's Polar Bears International Senior Director of Conservation. And then we have a few special guests. So for those of you that maybe follow us throughout the fall, you know that we do a series of webcasts mostly aimed at kids called Tundra Connections. And as part of that, we bring up special guests to talk to the kids all across the world about different topics. And so we always are, happy to have all sorts of different folks on board. And this week is a little bit extra special because we are really digging into a research project that's happening on Buggy 1 and the Tundra Buggy Lodge. So a couple of our guests are involved in that as well, which we'll also talk about. And we've kind of alluded to it on the chat windows. And a few of you are interested, so we'll definitely get to that in a moment. So we're joined by Liam, Amy, and Greg, who I'll introduce in just a few minutes here. And I am just going to pause for 1 second, and we'll just talk about some of the bear activity we're seeing today because, it's just been crazy. And I know you guys want to hear about polar bears. So on Buggy 1 right now, we've got our sleeping bear that's been doing bear yoga on and off. But to our left, we've got a couple bears out the window a little ways away. One has also been sleeping all day. One is kind of walking. There's been a lot of activity around the lodge this morning. Right now, we're watching the Tundra Buggy Lodge South. We're watching some interaction between what is most likely two male polar bears, most adult males. So interactions between polar bears are, we don't think they're that common maybe out on the sea ice in this way. What we see in Churchill is pretty special here in the fall on land. Right now, polar bears don't have food that they're going for, so their main food is from marine blubber, like in seals. Seals is their very favorite food, and seals just don't live on the tundra. So these bears haven't eaten for a few months, not eaten well anyway, and they're waiting for their next meal. But in the meantime, they're not competing for food. It's not mating season, so they don't have any girls to fight over. So they get a little more social than other times of the year. So we were lucky to see some sparring earlier today, and it looks like there might be a little more starting up here. Pretty fantastic to watch this. So they'll kind of size each other up. Often you'll see them open their mouths. Oh, they have a spectator coming in to watch them too. Now, polar bears won't want to, usually we don't see totally mismatched bears, so you're not going to see a really small bear and a really big bear going at it together. What you're more likely to see is two more similar sized bears. They don't really want to get hurt. They just want to have a good time and kind of play wrestle. So we'll just kind of watch how this plays out. And we've got, Jeff's watching them out the back. Pretty neat. And this guy, we saw this a few times today where there was kind of an extra bear that was coming in to see what the commotion was about. Oh, and a fourth bear. Look at that. This is pretty cool. And that might be the bear that's got the spot on his back, who you guys are calling Spot. It looked like I saw a black mark on the one that just came in there. So that's pretty neat to see. And this is really, we've only been really seeing this level of interaction in the last few days because it's gotten a little bit cooler maybe. Well, it got cold and it warmed up a bit. But usually you only see this when it has cooled down. So we wouldn't really be seeing this in, July and August when the bears are on land. If they were to wrestle like this with their 2 layers of fur and their big layer of body fat, they could really be in danger of overheating. But when it's a bit cooler, we see, we got 5 on the cam. Coming in from the left. Thanks, Cam Ops. The Cam Ops are always doing such a great job. And then BJ, maybe are these showing up on your radar? And then can you tell us a little bit about your radar system maybe while we watch this? Or what you might be looking for?
Yeah, so it's been a big day here from Buggy One. Of course, the Buggy One cam, we've kind of just been concentrating on our bear yoga, or our yoga bear here in front, but letting the lodge cameras pick up a lot of the sparring that's been happening. There's just been a ton of bears around. I mean, I think we counted up to 9 maybe. Did we get any higher than 9?
10.
We did get to 10. So 10 bears, which Elisa called a flurry earlier. Sounds about right. So that's been a good day out here. And some of these bears are pretty big. So we had a really big male come in last night. Now it's generally pretty hard to tell males from females, but once you get into the fully mature males, the really big ones, then it starts to become pretty easy to tell what gender they are. They're going to be pretty scarred up. This one that came in last night was actually missing an ear. And that's just kind of a hint at maybe how brutal the mating season is later on. This play fighting and stuff that we're seeing right now is, they're just kind of testing their skills out and seeing how they match up with some of the other bears in the population. There's no girls to fight over, so they're taking it kind of easy. The bear that was missing an ear, he at some point earlier in his life there probably got in a pretty big tangle with another bear, and so that's how he's missing it. That's actually our bear yoga bear here, so he's staying out of the fighting here, all the all the sparring that's happening around us. So it's been a great day, and like Elisa says, we got this bear radar. Now this isn't some sort of imaginary radar. This is the real deal. This is a bear radar. This is a what they call compact surveillance radar. It's a product made by Spotter RF in Utah. And it was originally developed for the military so that maybe troops that were pretty far forward could set up a tool that they could watch for them and watch for movement in the space around them. The radar itself is made up of small panels. They're about the size of maybe an iPad. They're very light. They're made of plastic and can be easily attached to, structures or poles or something like that. And so we've got 4 of them here on the Tundra Buggy Lodge, and we have that tied with a camera, a PTZ camera. And anything really that moves out here within 400 meters or about 400 yards of the lodge, so far as we can tell, will be picked up by this radar. And so that really what we're looking at is how could we maybe have a tool, or would this tool work for an early detection system for communities that are further north of here, or maybe Churchill? Could you have this system set up in places where polar bears might come into town and during all weather, darkness, daylight, whatever, have this sort of alarm system built in for these places? So of course, we're just trying to prove this thing. We're working with some other folks from York University. I'm getting tongue-tied here. York University, who we'll put on the hot seat here shortly. And so this is something we'll probably be talking about a fair amount here this year just because it's so cool. It's really neat technology. And so far, it's working really, really well. We're able to track most of the bears that were around the facility this morning were showing up on this thing. So it's super cool stuff. So maybe I'll pass it on over. Oh, Elisa wants to say something else.
Just real quick, and then we'll pass it over here. So just to back up for a second. So we were seeing the sparring on Lodge South Cam. So check that out. They might have moved on from there. Or maybe there's a slight bit of a lag. So on Buggy One, we are seeing the sleeping bear, but there are bears all around us. And for those that might be a little newer or missed the first part of the chat, so 2 other cams are mounted on the Tundra Buggy Lodge, owned by Frontiers North Adventures. And we're very close to the lodge right now. We're just a little ways away. But there is a camera looking north and a camera looking south off the lodge. And then we have our Buggy One mobile roaming cam. And then the other couple polar bear cams at this time of year are out on Cape Churchill, which is farther east of here. So as we are on Buggy One talking about this bear, right behind us on the other cams, you might see other bear activity. And it can be a little hard to kind of wrap your brain around this. because it is such a unique area. And I know that there's some folks, some moderators that have some wonderful images of the area and maps. And if those maybe I can try to dig them up, or they could try to dig them up and repost to give just folks some context of what we're looking at, and then context of what the radar is looking at. And thank you, Cloud, for posting that video about the radar system. It is pretty cool. So we're going to keep an eye out as we're talking, and as we are sitting with the Buggy One cam on our sleeper bear. We'll see if we see anything else coming in and move this cam, and then we'll be a little more clear about where we're seeing the other activity in the future. But here I'm going to pass it off maybe to our graduate student at York University and working with PBI, just to say a couple things about the project, because she just took this on. We're really excited to have Amy Coxedge up here. And Amy, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what your specific part of this project is and what you're excited about.
Thank you. So my specific project is actually in the works because we were interested to see what we can get from the radars, which seems to be an excessive amount of data, which is going to be amazing to sort through. We have some information about how big the bears are that we're catching. We have information about where they're moving. We have geolocations. So yeah, I'm really excited to just kind of get an idea of how many bears are out there, what information we can gather. Yeah, it's been pretty exciting to be able to find them before we actually see them.
It's very cool. It's a really neat piece of technology. We were giving this talk last night on the Tundra Buggy Lodge. So part of what we do when we're out here, we do back up to the lodge at night. We go hang out with the guests that are here and we talk to them. And we were presenting about the radar, and BJ had it up on the screen, and you could see a bear coming in with the radar before anyone got eyes on it. So BJ looked like a total rock star when he was like, oh, there's just a bear outside here, and everyone could just barely see it, but the radar had picked it up. So it is a pretty cool little piece of technology. And maybe I'll pass this over to Jeff York at Polar Bears International just briefly to talk a big picture about why this tool could be really useful in the north.